Hello, welcome to Emerging Motherhood. My name is Anitza. This is a podcast meant to empower women, help you learn how to love yourself, leave toxic relationships, be inspired for what you do want to do with your life, made by women for women. So if that sounds like something you're into, I would love if you would subscribe, leave a comment below, letting me know who you are. And for today, we're gonna talk more about Ballerina Farm, because I'm sure if you're watching this, you read the article on People magazine or the New York Post, but I was a trad wife, and I actually didn't realize how many similarities there were to me and Ballerina Farm. But that also doesn't surprise me, because I meet women online all the time that our stories are like, oh my God, they're so similar. And so I do not know Ballerina Farm, her husband. I don't know them. I've never met them. This is all my speculation based on reading the article and consuming some of their content that they put out on their social media. That's all. This is just my speculations and my opinions. But because there are so similarities in her story and my story, and because I have a lot of lived experience that is similar to hers. She has 8 children. I have 4 children. That's the first thing to touch on with Ballerina Farms is the amount of children. The fact that she has 8 children. She's only 34 years old. So that means she started having children at 22 years old. That's just, your brain is not even fully developed yet, and she was already starting to have children. That's just, if that's not a little bit of a red flag, just the amount of children she had is a lot of children. That's really, really hard on your body. There's risk of prolapse. That's where your insides literally fall out of you, your vagina, your uterus. They just start to kind of hang out of your body, putting that much pressure on those muscles constantly without properly healing in between and giving yourself long enough time to heal. It's just not good. A lot of people don't know this, and this is the most rigid way you could describe this. But if you were to take pregnancy and, use a comparison, the baby is kind of the closest thing is like a parasite inside of your body. It is truly sucking all the nutrients. So that's why if mom is eating a diet of Mountain Dew and Cheetos, well, whatever nutrition is in there is gonna go straight to the baby, and mom's body is really gonna suffer. But even still, it is a lot on your body. I myself had 4 children. I had them unmedicated because that is a big push in the trad wife lifestyle. I was a trad wife. Most of my friends that I went to church with were traditional wives to some degree. Whether they worked or not, we all upheld these traditional gender roles and traditional values of what a wife and a mother are meant to do in their home and for their family, and what the husband is meant to do. And yeah, there was a big push to give birth unmedicated, because that makes you more of a woman. And that's why there's, women have these stupid debates or make really stupid comments about the way you birth your child. Oh, you're not a real mother, bro. You're a mama. You had a baby, you're a mama. You adopted a baby, you're a mama. You're good. But having that amount of children, having 8 children is a lot on one body. And especially the recommended amount of time between pregnancies is 18 to 24 months. So about 1.5 to 2 years between pregnancies, not between births, because the pregnancy is what starts to take a toll on mama's body. And they said in the article that about every 9 months, she's starting to get ready to want to have another baby. That is so much on her body, and then her body is not healed. And then she's done that 8 times. This is a situation where when you have a loving partner and when you have a loving relationship, one of you speaks up and says, hey, I don't know if this is what's healthiest for us and for you. Even if the woman is the one who's no, but I really want to have another baby. The loving partner says, hey, honey, I love you so much, and you are so valuable to our family. We should respect and honor your body and be very, very careful to make sure we don't get pregnant any sooner than 1.5 to 2 years after the last birth, because you are so important. Not, you're 8 kids deep and somebody mentions the 15-seater and is wow, what do you got going on there? And you're yeah, I can't wait to fill her up. it's just so inconsiderate of her body and her health. If you're not aware, the United States has one of the highest mortality rates of any high income country in the world. More women die in birth in America than in any other civilized country on the planet. And for Black women, that number's even higher. So every single time this woman goes to have babies, she's putting herself at risk, her life on the line, risking all these children to be motherless, to just have one more kid. It's a lot. Also, not to mention, like, the babies don't get enough time with their mama, which leads me to like another issue. I have 4 children myself, and when you have a lot of children, there really does become a lot of pressure on the older kids to help take care of the little kids. It was evidenced in the article. The journalist mentions many times how they're like pulling a chicken out of the oven and like eating it and just like, there's a little bit of chaos going on. And that is absolutely true. When you're that outnumbered by children that all need you at all ages and stages and varying degrees of life, you cannot meet all their needs. You're not going to meet all their needs. Period, point blank. There's no fucking way. You don't have that many sets of hands. You don't have that much time in the day. There's literally situations where one kid over here is puking and the other kid over here, spilled a cup of milk. And what do I do? Do you know what I mean? This one's, I don't know, clean it up. You got to deal with that. I got to be over here. You physically cannot be there for everything that you need to be there for when you have that many children. And what ultimately happens is the older children have this pressure to start kind of parenting the younger kids. They kind of start to miss out a little bit on their childhood or start to gain some resentment. And then they don't get to have sibling relationships. They have weird power dynamics even within each other as siblings. And like everybody's kind of getting robbed of the experience because you're having children like they're Pokemon and you're collecting them rather than they are individual human beings that need time, attention, and love for their whole growth, and then you send them off into the world. It's just really hard on the kids. It's really like, well, here you go, there's another one, help with the kids. Like, that's just really, really unfair to the kids. Having that many kids is unfair to the kids. They're not getting the best of mom. I'm not saying it's the worst. I have 4 kids. I'm just saying I can see it with my own kids. I can see where having a lot of kids has its drawbacks and has, at the end of the night, there's moments where I'm like, gosh, I just wish I could have been there for this moment or that moment, but I can't be in 2 places at once, or I can't hug 2 at the same exact time. This one's crap. There's days where they come home from school and every single one of them is in a pissed off mood. And every single one of them needs their mommy and needs a moment to talk with mommy. But I literally cannot talk to all 4 of them like in the private conversation the way they would want. And I have to literally pick, okay, well, I'm going to talk to this one because it's been a minute since I've talked to her, or, he's the little one, let me talk to him. Like, I know for a fact that's how it is, because that's how it is in my house. And I know my house is not that wild or crazy, and I'm super duper outnumbered. So to have 8 children is super unfair on those kids. Okay, and 8 kids, the reason why, like in the 1800s, people would have 8, 9, 12, as many fucking kids as they could. But there's a lot of real reasons why they did that. Number 1, there was no social security. There was nothing. If you got older, you were farm workers. If you couldn't keep up your farm, you're fucked. You're just gonna literally like die in your house alone. There was no social security. There was no safety net, no 401ks. That shit was not a thing. You had to have kids so that you could be taken care of, because how the fuck else was humanity gonna keep it going? That was just like what you had to do. Also, there were no vaccines. Modern vaccines were not a thing. If you wanted to get to your old age with maybe 2 or 3 kids surviving, you had to have about 8 or 9 kids, because a lot of them weren't gonna make it because of just regular fucking shit, like syphilis was killing people. Prairie dogs carry the bubonic plague, but there's a pill for that and it's fine. People don't die from that anymore. Because we have vaccines, but that wasn't a thing. So you had to have that many children. There's no need to have 8 children, 4, 5, there's no need to be that outnumbered in children, because not only are you not giving your children the everything, society grows and changes and adapts and evolves. And we've adapted and evolved to the point where we do not need to have 8 or 9 children to get to a place where we have some adult children. So it's just unfair to them, really hard on the mother's body, economically unwise, environmentally, it's really hard on everything. Like, why are we doing this? There's no point. We're going to get to the point of why they have 8 children. It's really just to drown you in children and just to, I feel like there comes a point when you're having children with these types of men, these trad men who want to get back to basics. They want to get down to the nitty gritty of life. Once you're super outnumbered in kids, like 3, 4 kids is still a little bit manageable, but once they get you to 5, 6, 7, 8 kids, they kind of feel like they have this power over you, and you can literally feel and see the of them kind of settle back of like, well, what is she gonna do? Where the fuck is she gonna go? And it's disgusting. And I guarantee you that was a huge part in how and why they had 8 kids. Okay, also they homeschool. John Oliver, last week tonight with John Oliver, did an amazing episode on homeschool families, homeschool curriculums. You can look at other documentaries like the one about the Duggar families and other kids that went through the IBLP, famous, really, really popular homeschool curriculum. There's even the fucking show, Welcome to Plathville on HBO Max or TLC. That show, the Plathville show, is exactly Ballerina Farm, just fast forward 25 years. They did exactly all that shit. Huge farm, huge family, huge home, mom stayed home, homeschool, everything from scratch, no sugar, no TV, no everything, blah, blah, blah. What happened? You don't gotta take my word for it. That bitch got divorced. She eventually was like, you know what? When my kids start to grow up, because a lot of these people have children thinking, well, I'm gonna have these children. I'm gonna raise them in such an isolated little bubble, and I'm gonna control every single piece of their life because it's all about control. I'm gonna control every single piece of their life. I'm gonna control my wife. I'm gonna be the leader. I'm gonna make everything perfect. It's gonna be my dream. And they're going to be perfect little children and little servants and grow up to want to do exactly what I tell them to do. And that's not how it works. No matter what, especially when you have that many children, no matter what, you're going to get to a point where 1 or 2 of the kids are like, I think different. I think different. And they're not going to be what you raised them to be. And you can look at other examples to see this type of life, this setup that they have is a farce, and it will fall and it will come crumbling down. That Ballerina Farm will come crumbling down. The fact that they say that she has weeks of exhaustion where she just like literally can't get up and can't get out of bed. I had the same exact thing, and it is wild that it didn't even dawn on me that, oh my God, yeah, I haven't had those weeks of sickness ever since I got divorced, ever since I wasn't with somebody that was kind of controlling my every thought, and somebody that I was spinning on a hamster wheel to perform for, to make sure I was happy. I was cooking everything from scratch to make sure that, you know, it's like having a fucking gourmet chef, the way that these women, myself included, cook. I mean, I would sit here, if I wasn't cooking, I was watching cooking shows, learning. And I don't just mean like the Food Network, like America's Test Kitchen, learning the science behind it, researching recipes, breaking down why, you know, you proof at this level, at this temperature, you getting thermometers. I mean, because these are all shows of your femininity and your beauty and your wonder. And the more beautiful you can make these things, the more beautiful you are. And there's just so much pressure wrapped all around these really mundane duties. And having 8 kids absolutely is a part of that reason that she's having long bouts of exhaustion. And I think it also goes to show how much help she's getting. That's the fact that they're allowing her to get pregnant every 9 months, but then when she's having these long bouts of exhaustion, there's nobody stepping in saying, you know what, maybe this is a lot. Maybe we need more help. We definitely have the income and we have the money. Maybe we need more help, whether you want to admit it or not. Isn't that what like having loving, close relationships is for those moments where they can say, hey baby, I really feel like maybe we just need a little bit more help. I don't want to see you this exhausted. I don't want to see you going through this. As soon as I left my shitty relationship, any of them, the exhaustion is gone. I haven't had a sickness like that since I was married. Magically, it's gone away. I haven't had any of those bouts of sickness because the pressure in a traditional relationship like that is overwhelming. And it goes to show that the children are a responsibility for her. It's something that she has to take care of, something she has to do. But for dad, they're just ornamental. They're just an accessory. He just gets to pick and choose which ones he wants to hang out with for that day, what little chores he wants to bring them along with. But overall, the kids are mom's responsibility, Ballerina's responsibility. That is unsustainable. Not to mention, the children are not getting what they need. Children need love, attention, hugs, kisses, affection, somebody showing interest in them, somebody watching them do what they're doing. When there's 8 children and not that many adults paying attention to them, you can hear it in her videos. You can hear the fucking chaos that is just kids on top of kids on top of kids. And for somebody that's homeschooling, going back to that part, the different curriculums that are available, hearing how some of the children talk, and this is not talking shit about a child. This is, I have a developmentally disabled child. There are certain milestones that kids meet. There are certain language skills that children have at certain ages that you can hear in the videos. It sounds like maybe some of the children aren't meeting their milestones. That's a valid concern. You can hear the chaos in the videos. You can hear that there is pressure on the older kids to have to take care of the younger kids. And not to mention, she's like the ultimate mommy vlogger that's putting her children on display for likes and views. Everybody criticizes that in the whole world, but when Ballerina Farm does it, it's okay. Like, nobody finds it strange that there's just babies everywhere, kids everywhere, all over on the internet. Like, that's why some people are watching. Do you know what I mean? Like, she is exactly one of those mommy vloggers. So yeah, for me, the biggest red flag, just looking at the fucking picture in the article, seeing a woman with 8 children, especially when you see how young she is and you see how back to back to back to back to back the kids they are, that is like alarm bells going off, red flags in my head of there's something wrong in this relationship and this family's a little fucking off. Not to mention, another indicator to me that there's totally something off in this family is the isolation. Because as soon as they got married, they quick moved to Brazil, and they were in a totally different country where she birthed her first 3 children, and she was still trying to hold on to her dreams of being a ballerina. But that's where the isolation starts, because that's how these relationships start to gain control, is they have to isolate you. They have to get you away from everybody you know and love, your country, your cultures, in any way to the most extreme that they can. They want to isolate you. Even if it's that they just start to talk shit about your friends, that you start to feel uncomfortable around them. Maybe it's not going to be completely overt, but they're going to try to isolate you. In her case, they went to Brazil. As soon as she had 3 kids, we're starting to get to that marker where they start to think, well, she's outnumbered. What is she going to do? They move back to America, and they're on a 328-acre farm where she continues to have 8 kids. God only knows if they're gonna have more. It gets to a certain point where you do start to feel where you're drowning in fucking children, you're drowning in life. And I feel like that's where her success comes from. She was a Juilliard trained ballerina. That is so hard to get into Juilliard. I'm pretty sure it's how hard to get into Juilliard. The Juilliard school is highly competitive and has a low acceptance rate, often between 5 to 8%. The exact rate varies by year and program, blah, blah, blah. So it's a prestigious school, really hard to get into, and she made it into Juilliard. Dancing was not just a tiny little thing in her life. It was a huge thing in her life. And so when they moved to the farm, she's supposed to have the little shed that's supposed to be for her dancing, and now it's the kids' schoolhouse. Once you're isolated physically from everybody you know, now you're gonna get isolated from yourself and the things that you find enjoyment in and the things that you love and you cherish are just gonna slowly get scooted to the side. It's not some huge overt thing. It's just a tiny little thing like, oh babe, there's so many baby clothes in our closet. Why don't we just take these gowns that you don't really wear that often? Why don't we just throw them in the garage really quick? And just little by little, you kind of get scooted out of your own life. And now you're kind of just this shell of a person that's just, what are you doing? I feel like what she's doing is searching for new recipes and always having a new baby. There's always something new happening. If it's not that, it's a pageant. But there's always something happening to look forward to keep her distracted from her life. Because she even says that's why she did the fucking pageant, because her sister was like, hey, why don't we break up from all of this. It is monotony. It does get old. It does get tired. That's why there's so much creativity in the kitchen. I've been there. I totally understand what she's doing. And here's the other thing. There is a level of humiliation tied to the high achieving women that they're looking for, like Juilliard trained woman, any high achieving woman. They're really, really highly likely to be in a controlling, coercive, narcissistic, toxic relationship with someone, because these men know that you're the kind of woman that you know how to work really hard. You know how to work really hard for good grades. You know how to work really hard to get into something, you can push your body, she can push her body to the limits like a Juilliard trained ballerina, and 7 days postpartum be doing bar Pilates exercises. That's not healthy for anybody. But yes, a Juilliard trained athlete is going to be able to do that. And she was able to do that. It's not good or healthy for you. I think a loving partner says, babe, I know that you can, but should you? To me, it seems like her level of seeking validation by making her life look so beautiful through the lens of social media is directly correlated to the level of misery that's going on inside, because that's a hard fucking life. She even says in one of her videos, she's making like Rocky Road ice cream, and she makes even the marshmallows from scratch. And she's like, and this is what we had for lunch and for dinner, and then we had a little bit for breakfast the next day. I remember like little food projects like that. Like, oh, I'm gonna make this thing, and it has all these different components, but I have to make all of them from scratch. And I'm gonna do that. I remember making chicken and dumplings, and I made the broth from scratch, and then I made the chicken. I had to grill it and cook it separately so that it had flavor, and then I had to make the dumplings from scratch, and then the bread from scratch. And that shit is so exhausting, and you take hours and hours and hours, and this is all we're eating today. This is it. This is all the food we have. Like, it's not as ideal and as beautiful as it looks. It's fucking exhausting. These toxic relationships with these types of controlling traditional men love to take a high achieving woman, like somebody who went to Juilliard, and get them to make those sacrifices to make them first. Like, it's just a big ego game for them. And that's all that they really want. So he got her the first Juilliard undergrad to be pregnant in modern history. Talk about ripping your dreams away and spilling paint all over them. Like, it's not even something she could look back on with pride. She didn't even get to finish. She had to get pregnant and drop out. And then she says that she knew that once she started to have kids, her life was going to look different. But that's not always the case. Serena Williams didn't really have to change her life a whole lot when she had her baby. She's still competing and kicking ass. Celine Dion, she's got twins. She is pretty fucking amazing if you just saw the Olympics opening ceremony where she performed. Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the Supreme Court, she was a mother. She had children. Like, I think it's bullshit to say that when you become a mother in a relationship, when you're married and you have a husband and you have a support network, that you have to also give up your dreams. That's not fair. That's not, men don't have to do that. Dads don't have to like give up all their dreams because now they have children. Mothers shouldn't have to either. When you have a loving partner that you're having children with, that's not what happens. But when you have somebody that's using you as decoration and collecting children like accessories, that's when you're gonna feel that way. Okay, and then the next big red flag from that freaking article was the speed of their relationship, because she rejected him for 6 months. At least 6 months, she was rejecting him. He fucking stalked her. They're trying to make that shit sound romantic, but that's fucking creepy. Like, take the romance out of it, because let's say the ending of that story, because this could be any story. This could be a horror story. This could be a romantic comedy. Do you know what I mean? All we have to do is change the ending of the story, and it has a very different tone to it. So if we take away the romance, some guy overheard her say, oh, I'm flying back to New York on this day. He uses his personal connections to find out where she's going, what flight she's going to be on, what seat she's on, and potentially had somebody moved so that he could be in the seat right next to her, and then just acted like it was fate. That's fucking creepy. But considering she had her first kid at 22, she was maybe 21 years old when this happened. She doesn't know shit about fuck. You're still learning about life. You're still growing. Like, you're still in college. You're still learning how to make decisions and how to like feel people out. And like, you know, you're still making some mistakes here and there. And that's when he does this and makes it sound, of course, there's this insinuation that they can have this wonderful jet setting life. Oh my God. That's why she's, oh my God, you know, you see her one day hoping that he's going to take her on a trip to Greece. There must have been something that led her to think, I would have never fucking thought my husband was going to take me to Greece. That was just not in our fucking wheelhouse of shit. But if she's like, ooh, maybe it's tickets to Greece, like, there must be some sort of understanding on her part that that is an option. Like, well, yeah, don't you remember when we were on the same flight back to New York, you know, you made it seem like we could be flying here, there, and everywhere. You have connections, your dad, you know, like, of course, going to Greece doesn't seem so out of pocket for her. And does she get that? Absolutely not. Because they're going to tell you whatever the fuck they have to tell you to get you roped into this bullshit ass lifestyle and make it seem like you're making all these sacrifices for this family. But what are you getting out of it? Who comes back to you? You're not a hose that can just endlessly spray water. There is a source that it comes from. And if you're not getting filled up, it's a recipe for disaster. You know, he is just exactly the kind of guy that makes me choose Bear time and time again. If you like my shirt, it's available on my website, Emerging Motherhood. All purchases are greatly appreciated. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you think of the shirt. Let me know what you think about Ballerina Farm. Let me know what you think about my assumptions. Leave a comment below and let me know. But okay, going back to the speed of their relationship, she wanted to date for at least a year and he said, no, this isn't working. They were engaged a month later. 2 months after that, they were married, and 3 months after that, she was pregnant. They got married and pregnant in a shorter amount of time than what she would have hoped that their whole dating relationship would have lasted. Like, if it was up to her, they would have still been dating. But because they went on his timeline, she was now pregnant with their child and already a few months married. Like, that is love bombing, and like, just lock it down before she realizes who the fuck I am. Before she can wake up and see me for my true colors. Before I maybe snap too early and she can still leave me. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can only play this good guy for so long before I'm gonna break character. So I gotta lock it down with her before that happens so that she can't leave. And I gotta make sure I get her pregnant so she feels stuck and she feels like a commitment to stay with me. It's just all a really gross and disgusting manipulation. It's not this beautiful fairy tale. And I think one of the things that a lot of trad wives don't realize, that I realize now on the other side, I always had a sneaking suspicion when I was in there. And, you know, I could see the men, the other trad men that were, you know, the husbands of my Stepford husband. You know, I was hanging out with all the Stepford wives. I knew what was going on. There were husbands that you could see and like, you got a weird vibe from them. Like, oh, I bet you he's pretty controlling at home. Or I bet you that one's really weird. Or I bet you this one does this. And I don't think going into that interview, that family realized how weird the dad comes off. I don't think Hannah Nealman realized how weird her husband is, how he comes across, how people can see him for what he is. People are probably picking up on it, and that's why she spends her time trying to make it look so beautiful and cute and amazing, because it's miserable on the inside. That would be my assumption if I had to guess, just from reading that article and consuming the little bit of her content that I have. That would be my guess. And if I really had to guess, I would say she's either going to be divorced or dead and diagnosed with like some sort of chronic illness, because the pace at which she's living and the weight of what she is being put on her is not sustainable. And I hope she wakes up and I hope she starts to pour into herself, even just a tiny bit, what she does for everybody else in her family. Because it doesn't seem like she's getting the support that she needs. Because when you live the trad wife life, it's really fun and exciting. And she talks about this. Like, you can get this sense from the article and from her content, the Ballerina Farm content, that she's having a lot of fun trying new recipes, and she tries all kinds of weird, wacky shit and different techniques and stuff. I feel like all those things are distractions from how miserable you are in your life. And eventually you're done trying new recipes and you're done having new babies, and you put away the baby wipes for the last time. You start to see the reverse milestones, the milestones that your babies are gone and your life is moving on, and you have to face your life. You have to face, what you've built, and you have to see it for what it is. And you have to see like, wow, I'm just a tool for everyone's use, and no one's pouring into me, and I'm just spending my life giving. And sure, that was fun, but you kind of the excitement ends when you run out of recipes and you run out of everything, and they forgot your birthday, or they got you your least favorite flower. Just little moments that you're like, thank you for everything I poured in. I get an egg apron. Okay. It kills you a little bit inside every time. When you start out in your early 20s, you have a ton of energy and excitement. And when you get to your 30s like her and you're saying that you already feel old, you're not even halfway through your life. She turns to pageants to break up the monotony. Like, there are so many red flags that you can hear in her story that align with what I'm saying, that the trad wife life is like pretty lonely and miserable and hard. And I just don't think women understand what a healthy relationship can look like, what a healthy, even partnership can look like. I'm going to link some resources below. There's a wheel, a lot of people will talk about the wheel of power and control, and that's great to see like where your relationship is going wrong. But there's also a wheel of equity and love, or equity and respect, and it helps you see what a healthy relationship could look like. I will leave some links below for some resources if you want to kind of dig a little deeper into what healthy relationships look like, because everything from Ballerina Farm to me screams misery, loneliness, sadness. So just like Hannah Nealman says in the article, that she's like, this is just what we are. If you want to call us trad, like trad wife wasn't a thing when I got married. I got married in 2009. This trend just started. I'm just saying, when I look back, yeah, that's exactly what I did. There's nothing new about it. There's nothing exciting about it. There's nothing rebellious about it. It's just kind of fucking weird. And it makes it really, really hard to feel human anyway, I wish her literally all the best in life. I don't want to sound like I'm criticizing her as a person or I'm coming at her in any kind of way. I'm just saying I've been in her shoes, and I find it really hard to believe that she is truly as happy as she makes it seem. And I hope that any woman in a relationship that feels a little bit lost or a little bit kind of washed away in the relationship, I hope you realize like that's not normal and that's not part of a healthy relationship. You should feel empowered and loved and excited, and it should energize you. It shouldn't drain you. You shouldn't be in the prime of your life feeling like, oh, we're already old and tired, If you're in a traditional relationship, let me know what you think about Ballerina Farm. Let me know your opinions. What was your take on reading the article? If you read the article, I will link it below if you haven't read it already. I know that they've written another version, kind of trying to backtrack a little bit on the story, like making it seem like the journalist was heavy-handed with opinions, but you pick up what you pick up, and impressions are real. And I don't think you're not really just gonna make that shit up. So anyway, let me know in the comments below what you think of Ballerina Farms, what you think of the article. Go to the website if you'd like to get your own t-shirts and support the podcast. And please like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. I love you.